And there's a story out there today, Alan, and you know this, and it all stems from that horrible All-Star game. I mean,
I knew it was going to be bad. I didn't.
But you didn't know it was going to be a 211-point bad.
I had a feeling. I didn't even begin. I didn't watch.
Did you see Adam Silver?
I watched True Detective.
I'm not mad at you. Adam Silver had the look on his face of disgust. Because remember, before the whole thing, he was telling everybody how this is going to be competitive. Hey, let's make this competitive and entertaining for the fans.
Had NBA legends going to the locker room.
Like if just fell on deaf ears.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the NBA, Alan, is looking for a new TV deal. You know, like their TV.
Yeah.
Dude, if you're ABC, ESPN, TNT, the boss at TNT is already on the record saying we could survive without the NBA.
Exactly.
He's on the record.
Yeah.
Because they're letting people know you guys have done a job on us. Stars sitting out, load management, and then these terrible All-Star games. Right. And then everybody was like, well, the All-Star game was up 14%. Well, last year, Alan, it was the all-time lowest.
Right.
So it was up 14%, but guess what? Now last year was the all-time worst, and this year is the second all-time worst. So it wasn't like it bounced up and people were like, oh, we like this. No. The last 2 years are the two worst NBA All-Star TV ratings, and it's getting worse.
It's bad.
It really is. But, Rob G., there was some news, a story today. Clue us in.
Well, Rob, it goes beyond just the All-Star game, okay? Scoring averages in the NBA are the highest since 1969-1970 season. The league has set a record for offensive efficiency 6 times in the last 8 seasons, all right? It's a scoring explosion.
You can't touch anybody. You can't play defense. Or you like Dennis Rodman and the Bad Boys, they wouldn't even be able to play in this league.
Oh, without a doubt. They couldn't play. Rambis, rest of those guys.
None of those guys. Oakley,
nothing.
Anthony Mason, none of those guys could play.
And with all that in mind, ESPN reported earlier today in a long-form piece that Joe Dumars, the league executive vice president,
who played on the Bad Boys,
head of basketball operations, and the league as a whole are considering changes to curb this offensive explosion. Here's Dumars on the record. It's a topic that we're monitoring. We're diving in right now to make sure we're on the right side of this. It's not to the point yet of rule changes. We're diving into it right now. Ton of film, putting together a ton of reels to be able to look at it and say, okay, yeah, we do have a problem, but we don't want to make changes just like that on an anecdotal call.
Well, I think Joe D and Adam Silver and the powers that be that run the NBA, they have a problem, Alan, on their hands. And they better not. You got to be real careful. You can run fans off. I know a lot of people, you remember the old days. The NBA is fantastic. It was about the fans. Remember that? NBA is fantastic. But this is a league that turned fans off at one point where their championship games were on tape delay. Like
right.
You remember those days. You watched the late local news at 11, and the sportscaster would say, if you plan on watching the NBA Finals tonight, turn down your sound or turn your head. And they'd hold up the score of the game.
Yeah.
And then CBS would play it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that. And this league, Alan, I've been covering the NBA since 1987. And I'm talking about, I've been watching it since I was a kid, but I mean covering it, going to games, being there. I was there when Michael Jordan made that shot over Craig Elo, sitting courtside. I could give you so many great games and situations I've been in. But the idea that you can't touch anybody defensively and you can't get physical and you penalize the defense has gone way the other way. All the European players talk about it. It's easier to score in this league than anything that they've ever faced. They can't even get over it. That's why. Look at all the MVPs of who? All European or foreign-born players, right?
Exactly.
Alan, where are you on this, and what should the NBA do?
Well, here's the problem the NBA has. You have a lot of coaches now in the league who are also offensive-minded, and they complain about guys like Thibodeau, who more or less sort of tries to stress defense. League is not physical, and you got guys who whine about it being too physical. I see guys now get fouls where they look at the player like they want to fight over the lightest little foul. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea what it used to be
Go
like.
watch Jordan when he came in the league.
You know, any of those guys go down. Bird had back problems because he got knocked on his butt a lot. I mean, it was a physical league. But now the problem is you got so many players in the league who don't know how to play defense. It's never been stressed to them a little bit. You know, that stopped in college for a lot of these guys. And then you've got a lot of guys in the NBA, and that's another problem. You've got a lot of guys in the NBA who are one-and-doners, right? I'm one and done. So I would, you know, if I was ever going to learn any defense or fundamentals in that side of the thing, I didn't learn it because I got out of college in 1 year and I joined the NBA where I was just told to be offensive, and that's how you get the headlines, and that's how you get the money, that's how you get the recognition. You know, defensive stoppers don't get recognition too much unless you go overboard like Draymond Green.
Right.
And you sort of make kind of like a spectacle of yourself.
But at one point, it wasn't that way. We talked about it when we always talk about Dennis Rodman. He didn't score any points. You know what I mean? He played defense. He D'd you up. We've seen teams, that Pistons team we talk about in 2004 when they beat Shaq and Kobe. Go look. They got that. Larry Brown was the coach. You didn't play defense. You didn't play.
You don't have any rim protectors hardly anymore. It's a different game. Everybody thinks they can shoot three-pointers, and you're not going to get any fouls that way.
Yeah, and that's the Steph Curry effect. They talking about he changed the game
Yeah.
for the worse. He changed it for the worse.
Right. Everybody thinks they can shoot threes now.
You know, it's bad. Rob G, what you got?
Well, you mentioned those Piston teams of 2004, right? The Larry Brown Piston team, the team that
you
robbed
still
my
anguish
Lakers
over. Right.
of a fourth championship.
You know, Rob G is still sick that 2004 Pistons team. Am I right,
It was a
Rob?
fluke.
It wasn't a fluke
But-
because they went back to the NBA Finals the next year and lost in 7 games to the Spurs. That was a really good team.
Right. So Chauncey Billups spoke to ESPN for this story. Now
great.
he coaches with the Blazers. And his opinion is that actually those Piston teams, specifically that 05 finals between the Spurs and the Pistons, which was one of the lowest rated NBA finals
right.
in NBA history, he thinks that's the turning point for when they decided to make this shift towards offensive basketball. Here's what he said. That series changed the game because if you get to the pinnacle like that and the ratings are that poor, something has to change.
He's 100% right.
Yeah.
And people were like, they didn't want that. The year 2004, they held 11 straight opponents. Rob G, you can look it up. It's either 11 or 13. 11 straight, Allen. Under 70 points. Rob G, under 70 points in the NBA. Teams are scoring 60 in a quarter or 55 in a quarter. I mean, they're like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's how much. And I agree with Chauncey. Because people in the league were like, we don't want to see that. We don't want to see a 75 to 69 game. We're not looking for that.
I still remember the playoffs when Tayshaun Prince ran down Reggie Miller and blocked that shot. I mean, you know, they had Ben Wallace, Rasheed
Wallace.
I mean, there's some guys.
Don't forget now. Lindsey Hunter co-hosted the show yesterday.
Yeah,
he was on the Pit Bulls with him and Mike James. You remember them in the backcourt?
Yeah. Oh, they were tough. They were tough. I used to always joke with Lindsey Hunter when I worked in Detroit. Lindsey and I would go back and forth. I go, Lindsey, I know I could score on you.
Oh wow!
I used to play.
Right?
I used to play against Joe Dumars and those guys a lot. And Lindsey go like, you would never score on me.
Lindsey was a defensive specialist. There's no doubt about it. But this is where we are, Alan, and I think the NBA they got to dial it back. They got to give defensive players a chance to play defense and stop with all these ticky-tack fouls. You can't touch anybody. When Michael Jordan played, you could put your hand in his back, and then you remember they made you have the bent elbow.
Yep.
Then you could still touch him, though.
Right.
And now you can't touch him. I remember that finals when Miami, and you remember they gave all the free throws to Dwayne Wade. He had like 100 free throws.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was ridiculous. And that's where we are now. It is so bad. And it's unwatchable. I think the NBA is unwatchable.
And it's like every time, and I just only signal LeBron out because I just see this so much. It's like when he goes down the middle to the drive, it's like partying of the Red Sea.
Right.
Like, was anybody going to put a body on him? Am I going to knock him on his butt?
No, because you can't do it.
Back in the day, it would have been Lambeer and Rodman and Mahorn. You'd have just
you'd
have been on the floor.
Pick your poison, all three.
Right.
Yeah, that's where we are now, and it's disappointing. But the league has to make changes, and anybody who doesn't think so haven't been watching the NBA. If you just say you want it to be as is and you love the scoring and that's all that matters to you, you're not watching.
Right. And you know another problem, though? It is where we are in society, I think, today where all these guys are pretty much friendly to each other.
Oh, that's another thing. Yeah. You go on vacation
I'm
together.
with my guy on social media. Like you said, I go on vacation. We got a business together.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff.
You hear Draymond ever talk about LeBron?
Right. Back in the day, guys, it was legitimately. I remember we had Bill Laimbeer on our show one morning, and I asked Laimbeer, I go, after all these years, Bill, say you ever saw Robert Parrish in the grocery store. Are you going to go say hi? He goes like, heck no.
No.
He goes, I still can't stand him.
Right. Even after all the years ago after.
Like, oh, come on, but you got to be kidding me. He goes, nope, can't stand the man.
Crazy.